Hi guys, it's Renaissance Man. I'm trying a new amp modeler software on my PC called Bias FX2, and because sometimes I like to play really early and late at night and I can't use my tube amp, so I'm trying a demo model. So this is pretty cool. It has a bunch of amp models. Like this is the British one. So I'm really impressed with this because I've used other products like Amplitude and so forth, and they just don't have the response like I can do. This picks up your guitar dynamics, and what's cool about this is you can go ahead and pick your not just the amp model. So here you have the different amp settings. I'm just using the demo model right now because before I buy it, I want to try it out. But it's really impressive how many amp models they have. And if you live in an apartment and you can't crank your tube amp, this is like the ultimate solution. So this is just the demo model, and then you have the high gain amps, which are really cool. They're modeled after real amps. Like this is a tread plate, which I think is modeled after the triple rectifier. And so you can tweak all these settings. Like so if I do a scooped approach, I take my mids down a bit, and then I take my treble up a bunch, and I do my gain increased a lot. And let's see how it sounds. But it looks like I bumped my audio interface or something. Sometimes it has a so I'm having technical issues with it. Okay. This is based on the triple rectifier amp, the tread plate. And what's cool about this is you can also pick, so for example, if we go down and we pick another amp model that I love. This is actually, I think this is, they only give you a few to try for the demo, which kind of sucks, and they do this shit. But I'm going to buy the full version because I like it from trying it. It's totally awesome. Especially if you don't have, $100,000 to buy all these amps, and you don't have a studio, a house you can crank it. So this is the Invader. Let's try this out. So that sounds pretty badass. This is based on the Angle amp. And you can also change like the cabs. I mean, there's so much stuff you can do on this. Like if I want to pick a different cab, I can tweak all these parameters. I mean, this is just insane, like distortion pedals. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff you can pick. It's just madness. I have Guitar Rig, which is cool, but It's not quite as good when it comes to amp choices, and there's also other modules that none of the other modeling software have. And I have studio monitors connected to my Babyface audio interface, and for a home practice, it sounds pretty awesome. So this is a Mark V amp. So this is kind of cool. So if we go. For a modeler, at home studio, this sounds very realistic. Because I have a 6505 amp that is really good, but I can't crank it all the time. So I'm mostly into high gain stuff right now, but there's tons of clean models as well too. If you don't want to play high gain stuff. So I'm trying to find the one amp model I really liked. Let's see, what was I was playing last night. Up late last night. They even have the Ecstasy, so if you don't want to spend $5,000 on an amp, you can do that. And I think this is one of the most expensive amps. This is modeled after a diesel. Very cool. So this is the based on the almost $5,000 amp. So it's kind of cool. So I'm trying to find. If I go to Crunch, okay, I think it's under here. So the one I really liked that I played last night for the classic rock. Where are you? It's modeled after the Mesa Boogie 2C, I think. Plus or 2C, I always forget which one it is. They got low gain stuff too, so you want to do something like a tweed. So I think for like somebody who's a student, this is like the dream software. Or you want to record. I have to after I get the full version, I'll probably do some recording and do a video on that because there's a lot to it. You even have the Jubilee. This is to get all these amp models. If you bought the amps, you'd probably have to spend a small fortune. And there's this one guy on YouTube, Henning. He must have. That's because I haven't bought the full version yet. I'm just trying this out. Henning must have bought $1 million worth of amps. He must come from a very wealthy family. I call him the Dr. Evil of guitar because he's bald and he looks like Dr. Evil. Eye patch or whatever. And so he has a room full of expensive amps and gear. So he must be a rich German or something to have that kind of money. Because I certainly don't have that kind of money or room for. I think it was actually. Is it? Oh, that sucks. Okay, so this tells me, okay, this is the one I like. I think what happens is they put a limit after you try so many. I could be wrong, but it's all good. So this is based on the... it actually like tracks your pickups. I'm playing my ESP guitar right now with EMGs, so I can do pinch harmonics and stuff like that. So it's very realistic. And that was based on SL, which is a super expensive amp. I think used ones were selling for like close to $5,000 now, which is just nuts. But you know, hey, people will pay it. I mean, people want a room full of amps. You know, they're all cool and all that. But I think the future is this kind of stuff. So this is the Bias Effects software, which I really like. And then there's all stuff. So this is really cool. And you got what's called tone clouds, so you can mess with it and stuff like that. So this is your amp. What's cool about this, you can choose your preamp, which I don't think I've seen any of the other softwares, which is really cool because people always like to mess with. So you can change the preamps. So that's like the preamp, and if I mess with those. Isn't that cool? Wow, that sounds badass. And so you can mess with the preamps, EQ. They have all kinds of EQ stuff. Tone stack, so you can go to your so you can pick all your different amp models. I mean, which is just amazing. Like, so if we go to like British, let's see, what is it? British Modern. Let's see how that sounds. And I haven't EQ'd it or any of that stuff. I'm just trying the different things out on this app, seeing how it works. We got transformers. I don't think I've seen any app that has this. This is really cool. So you can change this. So if you go like transformers and you go. Heck, you can change the type of transformer as well. So if you go fat style. How cool is that? That's the transformer. You know, people talk about transformers, expensive ones and shit like that. And then so we got pure style. Very cool. So this also teaches you about gear for really cheap, like how gear works. I mean, conceptually and experimentally. So let's see. Wow, this is cool. I love this software. I'm definitely going to get a copy of this. I don't think I've seen anything like this because I tried a lot of stuff, Amplitude and other packages, and I don't think I found a package that puts all this together like this. I'm an engineer, so to me this is like mad. This is like really cool. I don't think, you know, I don't want to spend, you know, $50,000 on amps. So a lot of this is you got to pay for it. I just wanted to try the demo before I bought it. You know, if I go back to custom panel, so you can tweak so many things. I was looking at getting an Axe Effects or a Kemper, but they're like, you know, like close to $3,000, and I already have everything I need. I would just need to buy the software for this, and it's so much cheaper. And for home practice, I can't see the point of buying a Kemper or anything. I'm not gigging. So you can even change the cab. So you want to change background. I mean, that's cool. I don't really care about that, but it's kind of nice that they actually give you this many choices. So if I go back to the amp, so we go back here, and the interface I think is pretty good. I'm not complaining about it. So that was, and then if we go to like, if I go crunch, and so you have all this, you got the highway, you got tons of models. I mean, I think it's great. And then you got Plexi, right? So Plexi is notorious for being rock and roll. And we crank up the gain on this, and we increase the bass, and we try to get see what we can get here. Cool. You know, a used Plexi, it costs a fortune, so this is pretty awesome that it has all that stuff. And you know, I was practicing, I was screwing around with the demo version of this till like late last night, and the reason why I want to go this route, at least till I have a house, is because I made a mistake practicing late one night. My neighbor was upset, and I thought he was going to break in and try to dismember me. Based on how he was screaming and going carrying it away and all. And so I was like, well, I need to figure something out. You know, I play my tube amp at low volumes during the day, but not at night or on a weekend late at night. So I was looking at other options, and man, someone told me about this. This is just amazing. So this is another Marshall amp. We tried the Plexi lead. I think we tried this one earlier, but I didn't mess with anything. So this is kind of like the amp of a lot of rock bands in the 80s, along with the Plexi. So I think we demoed this one already. And we were going like, you know. So I can actually turn this down so I don't have to worry, which is kind of cool. And if you want to use headphones, kind of nice about that. So yeah, so I haven't tried the plugin yet with my DAW or my software, but it's pretty cool. I'm definitely sold on this software because I've been trying a lot of stuff. And let's see, Overdriven. I'm trying to find. I think I have to go back to high gain. I think it's under high gain. So they have all this kind of cool stuff here. So this is actually, I think this is what I liked last night. I'm trying to find it. I haven't tried this one yet. Let's try this switch lead. And let's up the gain, of course. And we cut the mids. Let's try this puppy. Switchblade. I don't know what amp this is based on, but we'll see. Sounds cool. Increase my. Just down. This is nice. So I'm learning this kind of stuff. And I'll do a demo against this compared to a real amp, because I want people to hear the difference, so that way they can make a decision what they want to go. But you're gonna spend a lot more money on a tube amp. Like, I bought the cheapest metal tube amp I could buy, for considering that everything else was 2 to 5 times the price, and it still cost me, like $2,000, less than $2,000. But I bought B stock, so I got a killer deal on it. But it still cost me a ton of money, and I can only use it when I can do it. So actually, yeah, this is good. I can get close to the Metallica sound with, and also the early metal sounds with these amps. So I definitely like this. Is really cool. It's just awesome. I mean, I think it's not cheap. They also make hardware that interfaces with the software, which I thought about getting, because you can get it's like a joint. It's not cheap, but it's comes with all the software included, and also the modules and stuff. But yeah, this is really good. And then this is insane. I think this is based on the Peavey. So if I increase the bass, scoop my mids, increase the treble, and I think this is close to my real amp that I have so far. So yeah, and also don't pirate software, guys. You know, I'm an engineer, and I make my living doing software, and I hate it when people steal shit. And Bias gives you a really good demo process, so you can see if you like it and just save up for it. It's going to cost you less than a tube amp anyways. So anyways, I'm going to do part 2 now, where I demo against a real amp and see how it sounds. Alright, so part 2, we saw it earlier with the Bias FX 2 software. Now I have my ESP guitar hooked up to my Peavey 6505 120 watt amp and my orange 4x12 cab. Have an EQ pedal and overdrive pedal. I have it at a volume where it's not going to drive my neighbor crazy on the loop channel. That's too much post gain. So there you have it. I mean, that's a demo of the amp. Now, one thing I would say about the amp versus the software and the computer and the studio monitors is the amp, it sounds more alive because you got real air pushing through big speakers. So of course it's not going to be the same, and I find the amp is more responsive to my picking attack. So if I'm using my picking attack seems to be more responsive when I'm playing than if I'm not. So if I'm going here, for example, if I'm doing pinch harmonics, it's much more responsive. See, much more responsive. Now, to Bias's credit, their software is pretty good at picking that up from my EMGs. Actually, I'm using way too much gain, so because I have my overdrive pedal on. So if I turn it over again now, I'm learning this song. It's my favorite Slayer song, Spirit in Black, but it's a little tricky. you know, it's just if you got a house and you got a lot of money, I mean, tube amps are way more fun, of course, but I was able to practice till late last night without bothering anybody. So that's the thing I like about the software, and you can record easier with it. You got to mic this thing up, which I probably will at some point. So it really doesn't sound quite as alive as a tube amp. Then I can turn the volume down with the EQ pedal. So yeah, it's not the same as a live tube amp, but I figure, you know, I don't have the space for 6 amps, and the software let me try hundreds of amps for a couple $100, and recording would be easier too. And then when I get a house, then I can always, you know, find the, you know, tube amps I really got to have. Like, I think the Peavey is pretty good. It comes close to Mesa and Soldano, and a lot of those type of amps that cost 3 times as much. So I'll probably keep my Peavey for the metal stuff, and then I tried a JCM 800 yesterday. I loved it for like classic rock and thrash metal. Most people don't know this, but like the thrash metal bands of the 80s, like Metallica, Megadeth, and Slayer, and British metal like Judas Priest and Iron Maiden, they all use Marshall JCM 800s. And so people don't realize that. And I think Metallica, when they started to switch off of Marshalls, they went to Mesa Boogie. I think it was a 2C or 2C Plus or a Mark IV, I forget. And then they reamped that into a JCM 800, I think, for their albums. After their first couple albums, I think they did that. So, you know, I mean, it's different sound. But anyways, I hope you liked this video and you found it helpful. If you're on a budget or you live in an apartment and you don't have a lot of money or space and you're learning guitar, even if you know how to play guitar, I think the software is great because most people have a computer already, and you'd only need monitor speakers and that audio interface, and that's, you know, a lot less than a tube amp. So anyways, please subscribe, and I hope you liked the video.